Good afternoon, everybody. Quick audio visual check. This is Michael. Appreciate you hanging out with us today. Thank you, Jeff, for that confirmation, and we will get started. Welcome to familiar names and faces here today. Good to see everybody. New names as well, and people who are checking us out for the first time. If you don't know, we focus and specialize on time signals, predictive times in particular for markets, everything from futures to forex, equities to crypto, bonds, commodities. Every market, every instrument, every time frame of that instrument is subject to, in one form or another, predictive times. And so far as I can tell, I guess because it's hard, we're one of the only companies that discusses it, and as you'll see in a minute here, actually provides the signals in advance for people who are interested in learning how this program works. How many of you are here today for the very first time, if anyone? I'm only asking because I want to make sure that we focus on the markets that you're interested in and not the ones that I usually pick. If no one's interested in anything in particular, we usually study the E-mini S&P, which tends to be the favored monster of choice by traders. So if you are new here today, introduce yourself, let us know. And yeah, the screen is actually a YouTube video. If you're interested in that, I like keeping it in the background. We'll put it in the chat box here so you can add it to your playlist, I guess. There you go. So one of the things we want to talk about is this principle of underlying chaos. I heard a great line from, what was it, a movie or a television show the other day where I think it was the final scene in the Iron Man Age of Ultron. And Vision is talking to James Spader's character, Ultron, and he says something to the effect of, humans think order and chaos are completely different things. That's where they've gone wrong. Order and chaos are two completely different things. And I thought a lot about that line. I think sometimes they sneak philosophy out into these popular movies and science fiction dramas. And the more we look into this concept of systems which appear to be chaotic on the surface, the more we see there's an underlying order and rhythm and vibration to all of it. In this case, Marcus de Satoy tells us the big thesis he had is, even though the world looks messy and chaotic, if you filter everything through math, numbers, geometry, you'll see that patterns begin to emerge. What are some examples of that? I mean, there's some things we can point to that I think give us some insight into how ordered our universe actually is. Dorian, I'm going to frustrate you even further by putting this on the screen because I know from what you and I were just talking about, it'll probably frustrate you. So give me a little bit of rope here. This is the E-mini S&P 500, and today isn't going to be focused on this concept completely, but over the last 15 years, I've discovered that there are several ways that we can predict what direction a market is likely to go. Forgive me there, I got a little happy with the keyboard. Let's go ahead and make a new version of this. And so far as I can tell, and I'm sure there are other ways, in the last 15 years, I've discovered that you can predict market movements from data mining, You can predict market movements through energy cycles, and then you can predict what markets will do using vibrational law, right? And so we're going to focus today predominantly on the first column. Thomas, congratulations. Thomas just wrote, hey, everybody, I passed my first Apex evaluation account today. Thomas, what methods were you using for your entries and exits, if you don't mind me sharing with everyone? Congratulations. I'm really proud of you. Good job. Another Apex evaluation passing, which is pretty cool. In a way, we're going to use this one to sort of prove what I'm about to tell you here. Energy cycles are kind of cool. Vibrational law is even cooler, but a little more complicated. Data mining is a pretty good place to start for most people. That's pretty awesome, Thomas. Congratulations. Keep it up. So one of the things we start to notice on a market like the E-mini S&P, if we just look at these signals kind of on face value, you'll see that in a downtrend especially, the market tends to drop near these red signals or stabilize and kind of go sideways, 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 right? With these little pivots in between. And then you'll see when we get near these green dots, what does it tend to do? And to me, I think this is absolutely fascinating. It tends to go up. And this isn't a recent phenomenon. This has been happening for quite a long time. In fact, if we go back years into the past, we'll see that this was happening back in 2021. And we'll go back even further and see that it was happening back in 2020. And then we can go back even further and see that it was happening in 2019, 2018, and so on. The ATR was a little bit lower back then. The volatility has increased. And if we just come in here and decrease the gap between the signals, you'll see that for quite some time, these red and green dots have been sort of warning us when these big moves were coming or going. And what I think is really cool about this, and I get a lot of feedback, not all positive. When I show this to people, it really weirds them out. They don't know how to process it. But the reason I show them it is because it's entirely predictive. Every one of the large red dots, for example, is a new moon, the date of a new moon. And every one of the large green dots is a full moon. And this is back in 2018. It's not a recent thing. In fact, people have been watching this now since the original JP Morgan came around 100 plus years ago. And so when we begin to look at energy cycles, something is chaotic, right? What could be more chaotic? When they show us the pictures of the stock exchange, ding, 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 yeah, no, give me that, no, yeah, no. It seems like absolute chaos. But when I look at this screen, it doesn't seem chaotic at all. It seems kind of structured, seems kind of ordered, seems predictable, because if we get to the current signals, right? I kind of know when these things are coming in advance, don't I? In fact, I know when the next signals for the energy phases of the moon will be here for the next 100 years. We can use Google to find that. We can use Google to find when we are fairly certain the market is going to start to rise. Full moons and first quarters and full moons. and we know when the next ones are coming. It's pretty interesting, isn't it? It's fairly interesting, and we can use it and apply it to different markets. Like this one here is the lunar signals on top of gold prices. If I get rid of all my advanced trading room stuff, the price of gold seems to reliably move up and down at these times. We could look at oil prices the same way, couldn't we? When will the prices of oil rise and fall? There seems to be some structure and order in that chaos. Thomas, that's a conversation that involves alcohol and more time. So we've put together a tool that makes it really simple, and for some of you, far more palatable than what's the size of the moon in the sky doing right now. Mike says, I'm up for that party. If you come to the Edge event in April, maybe we'll bring some of that Blue Ridge moonshine down from the mountains. If you were with us last week, a lot of you are faithful adherents to this program. You'll remember that last week we had this chart. How many of you remember the daily chart for the E-mini-P last week when we did our Thursday webinar? Some of you follow along pretty closely with these events. If you're watching this video on YouTube and you've come back next week to see, hey, what happened? Why don't you see this? We had, using a very similar approach, assuming markets were predictable, right? If we believe that going in, then there are these signals that are waiting for us. There are signals that reward us for our faith. And we were expecting a move up until Friday, February 9th. And then in the webinar last Thursday, which was this candle, we said the 9th will be a pivot down and bring us into Wednesday, February 21st. So a lot like a full moon and a new moon, insofar as what? Insofar as we know when the events are coming in the future. We know to a reasonable extent the polarity of those events. Is it a push the market up kind of thing? Is it a push the market down kind of thing? Last week, on a chaotic market, a chaotic system, there's no way to know, right? What do people tune into? What are the highest rated financial programs in the world? It's a guy with no hair like me and glasses like me, and his show is called Mad Money. It's mad, it's crazy. Ah! Intel better get its act together. I'm telling you, the Federal Reserve. And then there's this. 12,000 lines of code go back historically lately and say, when are markets being pushed up and down regularly? What's that pattern? Is there one? If there is one, can you tell me when the next buy and sell cycles might be? Can you estimate when JP Morgan is lying about things just before it goes up? Can you tell me when Goldman Sachs is likely to lie about things right before it goes down? Last week, we had this cue. Now, here's my favorite of parts, my most favorite parts. When we come back a week later, look what happened. I'm going to spread it out so we can all look at it in its resplendent glory. Ready? And I'll close the webinar right after this. I should close the webinar right after this example, because what else is there to prove? Oh, there's more. Look at the signal here on the close of Friday the 9th. In fact, let's draw a horizontal line between the close and the high of that candle and bring it over to here. If we shorted that signal right there at the close, it went a maximum favorable excursion of $113 down, about $5,000 per contract. If you bought it, the heat you experienced was about $20. So a 5-to-1 in terms of max favorable versus max adverse. And it went down decidedly. Until when? Until the 21st. And now here's where it's even weirder, I think. There's the close of that candle. And this is almost a doji. How many of you remember what dojis or spinning tops were supposed to represent and where they were supposed to occur? Where do dojis and spinning tops occur? More often than not, dojis will show up before or after spinning tops within same areas. They indicate indecision and a lack of direction. And they occur near reversals, turning points. Turning points. Well, interestingly enough, when we finished our webinar last week, right after there was a turning point here and a turning point here. I'm not extrapolating here, am I? Am I laying it on thick? I don't think I am. And if I'm not, here's the scariest part. More order, more order, more order, less chaos. There seems to be a schedule that's being followed. Now, here's the weirdest part, and here's where I still bake my own noodle. I don't know if it's free will or predetermination. We're into some heavy philosophical time travel and stuff. I can't watch time travel movies anymore. It messes with my noggin. Physicists tend to lean into something called deterministic theory, which is to say, if you have one object and it bounces into another object, a basic computer can tell us how the second marker will react. Well, when that marker is reacting, it's pushing against molecules of air in the room. And if we have a more and more and more powerful computer, in theory, the primary action sets in motion a series of events forward into history that were predictable based upon the conditions at the first push. Does that make sense? A lot of religions tend to lean on the predetermination side of things. Everything that's happening was part of a plan. You can look at different metaphysical genres and see that. This chart seems to lean into that presupposition. Now, the easiest way for me to assuage the why, the big WHY, banks are manipulating markets at key times, and people are getting caught in stop runs. We know they do this. They get caught doing this. They pay billions of dollars in fines doing this. Many of you worked for these banks and have told us, yes, we did that. For years, I thought that was the answer. But now I think it's bigger than that. And it hurts my brain because it takes away more and more and more free will. And I become what my sons refer to as an NPC, a non-playing character in a video game. So if you're playing a game, there are these people that are kind of walking around in the background, and they don't play, they're there in the background. Ryan Reynolds had a movie he did based on this. But what's undeniable is there appears to be every one of these signals to the left is a signal you and I have been following since the summer. And much like the full and new moon, there appears to be predictable reactions up and down at these times. And as further and further and further and further and further and further and further as we go back, none of these signals have repainted, disappeared, reappeared, gone away, and come back. Here we are back in 2016. All of these signals, based on the algorithm underneath that looks for these patterns, did what they did when they did, and were a prediction waiting in the future. Any questions about that? Sorry to get a little too deep there, but I really wanted to stress the similarities between the data mining and the what? The energy cycles. I really wanted to lean into that because they behave the same way. We have the same uncomfortable reaction when we look at them. And there's this thing like, hey, how come nobody told me about this? Why is it never mentioned? Etc., etc., etc. There's some cool things that emerge too if you're using energy cycles. While I'm in here, I just want to mention them quickly. Different phases produce pretty cool signals. For example, if you apply the third and first phase of the moon to Apple stock, look at what tends to appear. And this is information you can look up online, right? When's the next first quarter phase? When's the next third quarter phase? This is a moon half full. This is a moon, I'm sorry, half empty. This is a moon half full. We'll write a little note here just because someone's going to want to know. First quarter, and this is a third quarter. Now, I will be the first to tell you, I have no idea why this works. None whatsoever. I just know that it does. I know that if you put this on tech stocks like the NQ has full of it, it tends to work. You got to increase for the ATR because we have way more numbers in here, so make it like 800 instead of 400. But even little things like that, which have no business affecting anything, come up now and are predictable. As far back as we go, we can see some pretty weird stuff is going on with the first and third quarters. So there's ample evidence to suggest that markets are not as chaotic. And the people who are telling you that it is are usually trying to sell you something. They usually have a bronze course, a silver course, a gold course, and then a secret titanium course you didn't even know about. And they always have a secret hidden monitor where they're taking trades you can't see. And this seems to indicate there's just a plan. Any questions before we look at something really cool? Okay. One of the ways that we prove that this is real is by giving out the times in advance. And so on this chart, you'll see on Monday of this week or Tuesday of this week, I forget which, my associate here, Rachel, uploads all of these market turning times in advance before the webinar. And those of you that are coming through our funnel, you get invitations to follow along for a month and see how these times play out. So on Tuesday, for the E-mini S&P 5-minute chart, the program went back into the historical data with one directive, one mission. Are there any times in the recent historical data, are there any patterns that emerge from the chaos? Are there any times where markets are consistently being pushed up or consistently being dragged down? If so, one, note them, and two, can you project them forwards into the future so that I'm aware of them if it happens again? So we had this chart since Tuesday for today, which is Thursday. These times are all Eastern Standard Time. We still have stupid things in this country like daylight savings time and standard time. The government looked around and said, hey, we can control anything now. What's left to control? Let's screw around with clocks. Okay. Let's take away an hour from people and then we'll give it back and seem magnanimous. Fantastic. The hubris of these people. The program said, hey, all of these times, most of the time, are likely to be selling pressure points when we get to Thursday. All of these times are likely to be buying times when we get to them on Thursday. I got some big feelings on daylight savings time. I didn't mean to anger everybody. You're all very excited. I do remember at one point they said it was designed to reduce energy consumption. And then I found out that it actually increases energy consumption. I also read articles where retail store lobbyists lobbied the government and told them when the sun went down earlier, people consumed less. Every culture has a period where it slows down and people are quiet. My chickens, once a year, they lay fewer eggs, they rest, they recuperate. Not our country. What did you get your wife for Valentine's Day? You having a Super Bowl party? Let's go, people. So back to serious things. How ridiculous would it be if any of these times did anything today on a 5-minute E-mini S&P chart? It would be kind of silly. It would be crazy. Wait a minute. Hang on. What? Hang on. This can't be right. This can't be right. Shirley, don't call me Shirley. Shirley, something is wrong here. Let's take a look at this and see if any of these times are actually what people taking this trial were paying attention to. Well, there's 6:15. 6:15 was supposed to go down. There's 3:35. 3:35, we were being warned about a down move. There's 5:15. There's 5:15 on here. Then there's 8:05 over here. Hang on. hang on. Wasn't there a report today at 8:30? Well, wait a minute. We're back to that free will thing again. There was a report at 8:30, a big one. Big one. But we didn't know the results of the report on Tuesday. The program said to look for an up move at 8:05. Until when? 8:55. Oh, 8:55, 8:05. These dotted lines, by the way, are stop lines. They print, you can set your own value, but they print 1.5 average true range values away from the candle. It's a way of saying, hey, if this time's going to work, it shouldn't go past this line. So all of these times on this chart are the same times people have been waiting for since Tuesday. We've established that. And we're left with some uncomfortable conclusions. Uncomfortable in the sense that free will tends to take a back seat to the results from the warp program. Look at this candle here. Swing. We're going to come back and look at this guy in a moment. 10:35. There's a push up at 11 o'clock. You can see the pivots here, right, guys? Up, down, up. 12:35, it goes up. Swing. 3:10, it goes up. And then right here towards the close of the market, we even see that we're warned about this high. And there's another signal now at 4:35. Everybody with me so far? Okay. Any questions before I take it one step deeper? One step deeper. We're going to open one more door, walk a little further inside. If you're spooked out, raise your hand because I can help you now. Otherwise, you're going to need aspirin after we go one more step into the house together. Inside the world of predictive times. This is the first time I'm looking at my camera to see if there's anything embarrassing. I think we're good. Stay with me. I promise this gets even better. Inside the universe of time, because it is mathematical, because it is geometrical, because it's related to the fabric of space-time, a naturally occurring, let's say, element of our universe, we can press deeper into the analyses of these markets now. In a sense, if it's based on energy, if it's based on vibration, we're no longer Jim Cramer on Mad Money. We're no longer Berkshire Hathaway analysts. We're no longer Grant Cardone riding the waves of real estate values. We're more like the Nikola Teslas of the world who press into the science of it and say, what are the constraints? What are the laws which govern this energy? Because entire universities arose to teach people how the universe works. I have a rack of engineering books. If I release a marble at a certain angle with a certain velocity, I can tell you where that marble will land if I knew the distance from the ground, provided that all of these things, right down to the coefficient of friction as it passes through the air. We can use Bernoulli's equation to project lift on a wing. All of these things impose more and more and more order on chaos, such that a raging waterfall in Niagara, New York, can be harnessed to transmit electricity through multiple transformer stations to the Manhattan substations, because science and formulas and order imposed on chaos. Well, let's take a look. Hey, James, on this chart, the longer we look at time, the more levels of constraint begin to appear. And I've got a new version of this. I'm going to make sure I load it. In fact, let me get a let me get the new copy of this book out in your hands. There's a V4 and there's a V5 coming. Let me share this with you. I'll put it in the chat box. Download this one if you don't already have it. The longer we stare at time signals, the more we begin to see some weird stuff. For example, over a number of years, we began to notice that a lot of the sell signals were going in the opposite direction. A lot of the sell signals go in the wrong direction. And so the more we look at it, we would see these things happening over and over and over again and say, well, wait a minute, what if we approach this from a different direction? One second. No, I can't find the quote. So we see this signal over and over and over again. And it occurs to me that if time is like physics, if time is like fluid dynamics, if time is like thermodynamics, there's a language that I'm not fluent in. And I begin to think of this pattern as a hieroglyph. A hieroglyph, symbols which mean something. A combination of graphics, when organized together, imply meaning. So in Egyptian history, they didn't know what many of the hieroglyphs on the wall, the hieroglyphics, meant. And they found something called the Rosetta Stone. How many of you are familiar with what the Rosetta Stone was and why it was so important? It was a rock that not only had hieroglyphs on it, it had other languages translating the same thing. So if you were looking at the hieroglyphs and you saw man with dead duck in Greek meant fertility cycle. If you looked up here and it said man with dog, and you went down and looked in Persian or whatever it was, I think this is Greek. Man with dog was harvest season. I don't know. It allowed us to translate the meaning of the things. And so when we started to look at time patterns as hieroglyphs, we'd say this: hey, if there's a selling signal time, and either it, the candle to the left of it, or the candle to the right of it are lower lows in relation to a prior swing, there's a very high degree of likelihood that it will invert, reverse, behave in an opposite manner. And then we saw that the same thing was happening with the buy signals sometime. About 20 to 30% of the buy signals would reverse in the complete opposite direction. And we thought, well, maybe that's a hieroglyph. Maybe we're just not translating it correctly. And what if we say this? Every time we have a buying signal, if either it, the candle to the left of it, or the candle to the right of it, if any one of those three are a higher swing high in relation to the prior swing, then it's most likely to go in this direction. Now, you guys see that this book has been around since 2016. This is an example, in fact. From a 1-minute NQ chart. Six years ago. Well, here's the thing. That very thing happened today, right here. At 9:35, we had a prior swing, and it dropped at 9:35. How many of you were in my advanced room this morning when we shorted it? And then at 11:40, look. In fact, there's even a setting on the indicator now. If you uncheck this box and you want to see the higher level stuff, you guys will notice that the signals have numbers over them and under them. You see the numbers? We're building a language, a translation, a database of the hieroglyphs. We can add more and more and more order to chaos. And so using signals that we knew about since Tuesday, Raja, Patrick, when we arrive at these times, we now have a guide of what to expect when we arrive there. If it's just a plain Jane pattern 1, a regular vanilla buying pressure signal in an uptrend, we expect it to continue up. Right? If we're looking at a pattern 1 in a downtrend, it's a place where the fire is sort of quenched for a minute. Volume people will call this a redistribution phase. And so it can be a bottom, but it usually slows down. Market goes into consolidation. Oh, that's cool. Well, the same thing happens for a signal that's a number 2. In a downtrend, man, it just keeps going down. It's a retracement, a pullback, and whee, falls down even more. If the market's in an uptrend, it'll slow down. It'll go into a consolidation area and continue to rise. We have a guide. Well, what if it does that crazy number 5 thing? How do we trade it? I'm glad you asked. It's in the book. You can short it with a low risk scalp and see what it turns into, or you can wait for it to break out above its high in the direction of the trend. You can do that too, lol. A lot of people do that. So the point I'm trying to make is this. When the signal became a trend signal at 8:30 and closed right here. We had every expectation that it would rise until 8:55. At 8:55, we have a selling signal in an uptrend. We can look at our book to determine what might happen next. A selling signal in an uptrend is like a hieroglyph. What is the market going to do? It's going to slow down. It's going to go sideways. Isn't that what happened, Lowell, right here? Dink, 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 dink. Yeah. What happens when we get to a pattern 5 at 9:35? Put a stop 2 ticks above it. That's a buy stop. Otherwise, short it right here. Short it with a stop in reverse right above. How far down did it go? $1,000 per contract. What happens when you get to a sell signal in an uptrend? It goes sideways. What happens when you get to a sell signal in an uptrend? It goes sideways. What happens when you get to a buy signal in an uptrend? 12:35, we look at the book and it says, hey, go long and hold it until 2:45. Oh, what happens with a pattern 4? Wait for the third candle to form. Sell stop 2 ticks below the low. Otherwise, buy it and hold it until the next signal. How is this possible? Lowell, if you come to the Omnia event in April, you won't need volume anymore. In my class this morning, in fact, using Omnia techniques, I told everyone in the room that I knew 9:35 was going down. And I didn't have to look at volume. I didn't have to look at delta. I didn't have to look at any of that shenanigan. Thomas, I'll send you, you're not getting any of the emails from that? If anyone hasn't gotten an Omnia email, just type no. I'll make sure you get a copy of it. We've had some issues with spam filters taking out our stuff when we send it to people. So the cool part is, as we start to go back, today was not an exception to the rule. Today was just a normal day. And as we go back and look at yesterday, hey, we had the times for yesterday too, didn't we? Pattern 5, pattern 2, pattern 1 at 1250, pattern 2 at 140, pattern 1 at 320. There's even a pattern 2 at 1015, a pattern 5 at 835, a pattern 2 at 735. In fact, if we look at the times from yesterday, we'll see that some pretty significant things happened at the times yesterday too. Yeah, I'll make sure you guys get all that. We've learned about some new patterns in the book that I just sent out to you. There's a pattern 8 and a pattern 9 that we're building into the software, but it's in your book now. Here, check this out. If you have 3 higher closes or 3 higher highs, it's called a pattern 9, and we can put an arrow above it. Well, Lowell, can you see the signal here at 9:45 yesterday? Do you see how it matches the book? Low close, higher close, higher close, higher close, put an arrow over it. Look at that. We learned another hieroglyph. The software doesn't have that signal built in yet, but it's there in the book. We use it in our live rooms. There's actually a pattern 8 right here. If you can go back in that book and double check me, you'll see pattern 8 at 9:20, pattern 9 at 9:45. We have an idea of what's going to happen at these times. Any questions about that? Because it doesn't just happen on the ES, it happens on other markets like Bitcoin. So Barry, you see this program, what you need to do to see it is you're going to go into your indicators, you're going to uncheck this box, number 1, and then hit apply. Now, when you do, I want you to go down to where it says Signal Accessory Editor, and then go to Patterns. Where it says Pattern Text Offset, make it a big number. Like this is 100. That number is usually hiding behind the candle. I have to make it where it's an ATR offset, where you can actually see it. And now you see how those arrows are appearing, but we still can't see the number. Right there, it's stuck in that timestamp box. So Larry, for the instrument you're trading, make that bigger and bigger, and eventually it's going to pop out. Nobody say it. And Larry, when you do that, you see how the numbers eventually come out? So you need to uncheck that box. You'll see arrows. If you don't see the numbers, go into the Signal Accessory Editor, and you just need to push them out a little bit. With Bitcoin, you see how many numbers are here? It's 63,200. It's going to be different than CL, which is 77 point something something. 5 ticks here isn't going to push the number out. Actually, on Bitcoin, on our daily chart, we can take a look at that analysis. We looked at it this morning. We are going higher until March 2nd. Higher until March 2nd. I can't tell you if it's going to $100,000 soon. I can tell you that it will rise until March 2nd and then probably fall until March 18th. Bala, good question though. Any other questions about this? We can use this to look at other things like stocks. We can apply this to, we were looking at AMD, Microsoft. We were looking at Apple, Home Depot. We can use this on commodities, oil, gold, bonds, notes, crypto, currencies. We've been tracking the euro dollar for a while. We can look at this on 9-second NQ charts or 90 minutes NQ charts. It does not matter. The thing that matters is the belief that it's happening. If you believe that it's happening, then you're aware of it. So this morning on the euro US dollar, right? If we use the times from the stuff we published in advance, like Marty McFly with his sports almanac, right? We can come look at the euro US dollar times. There's 10:30. There's 10:30. There's 9:45. There's 9:45. There's 11:40. There's 11:40. All of these times are what was published on Tuesday. Well, it's Thursday. How do you trade a pattern 4? Below the trend line, you enter 2 ticks below the low per the book. If you enter here when it punctures the low, your stop goes 2 ticks above the candle that punctured it. You hold that position now until when? The next signal at 1140. When you get to 1140, it's a redistribution phase. We sell it when it punctures that white line. Our stop goes above the candle which punctured the white line. And now here, you get out. If you were buying with trend at 9:45, you were out by 10:30. 3 candles in a pattern 4 sequence. Candle number 1, number 2, number 3. Candle number 3, the buy stop, is 2 ticks below the low. You can buy right here or wait for it to sell. Okay, so if you did that method in both instances, if you bought here, you're stopped out and then reversed. If you buy here at the pattern 4, you're holding it now until 125. If you re-enter at 125, you're holding it until 2 o'clock. If you're selling it at 2 o'clock, how long are you holding it for? 3 o'clock. If you want to buy it at 3 o'clock, you can. Just put your stop right under this candle. Don't put it so far away. So if you did that in both instances here, look. This is a small stop. This is now a gain. If you sold it at 4:30, which was on the histograms we provided, you're now up 67 ticks or whatever it is. Using a map of times from 2 days ago that seemed to predetermine where the euro US dollar might go 2 days later, with an inflation report, with new home sales, with all of the turbulent chaos. There's this map, a framework, a wall full of hieroglyphs trying to communicate something to us from the past. Most of us were never taught to read it. Most of us were never told about it. No one talks about this. It's very shh. But when you come together days later on a daily ES time frame, oh, it worked. When you come together 2 days later on a 5-minute ES chart or a 5-minute euro dollar chart or a 1-minute NASDAQ chart, it worked. Oh, your brain starts to melt down. Shut that part off. Turn on the part, turn up the volume in the area of your mind saying, we can make a lot of money with this. Yeah, you could. You absolutely could. Thomas passed another Apex evaluation exam. He's on his way to getting payouts using weird stuff. Is it this way or the other way? I have a feeling it's the other way. Any questions about this? Any questions about it? Any markets we want to look at while we're here? We're right about the 1 hour mark, so I want to be very cognizant of your time. And then I'm going to, when we finish up, Barry and Thomas and Lowell, I'll make sure you get that information about the other stuff too. Okay. Does it work on multiple time frames? Yes. Look, we just have to change the number. Now we have the euro dollar on a 60-minute time frame. Not everybody trades small time frames, right? There's the information on a 60. Right? We come all the way out to a daily. Same stuff. All I'm doing is clicking a button. I'm not changing any settings. I'm not doing anything. We could change this for oil futures. A lot of you swing a big hammer out there. You have less and less time at the computer. Would you like to know what oil's going to do for the next few minutes, few hours, few days, few weeks? Did you know you can use this on a weekly chart? Here's the E-mini S&P on a weekly chart. Let me change the settings to my ES settings, the only market that I change settings for, just to be consistent. If you haven't tried this on a weekly chart, I highly suggest it if you have the means. I really do. Friday, March 1st, this week is expected to be a turning point. Boy, it feels like they're setting us up for something, doesn't it? Pattern 5, if you saw this, wait for the third candle, trade it long when it breaks out through the high, stop below the low. Never touches it. How far did it go on a weekly chart? Right now you're up $200. That's $10,000 per contract. If you had some calls, that would be pretty cool. All right. I'm not going to load a 30-second chart. You have the software. Load your own 30-second charts. You're going to blow my computer up. I happen to trade the 1-minute NQ chart. I love knowing when these signals are coming in the 1-minute NASDAQ. I love it. It's the perfect test case. It's like being a psychologist and walking into a bar and sitting next to the craziest, most unbalanced person in there, and they leave completely centered and healthy. If it works on the craziest person in the bar, my method will work anywhere. And if it works on this market, which is insane, it'll work anywhere. Anywhere. So all those markets are available. And here's the best part. I know the signals in the future. None of these times to the right will ever change, disappear, reappear, go away, come back. They're locked in, carved in stone, for better or worse. 5 years from now, those will be the times. Those dirty rat fink you-know-whats who sell software where the zones disappear, recalculation, print 5 bars later. They're hacks. They can't hang with me. They are comedians who use props. It's a whole other league when you start going down this rabbit hole. And trust me when I say there are deeper and deeper and deeper depths to this. We can go pretty deep, but for now, this is pretty cool. Any questions? Any questions at all? No, Michael, we know it all. So we know the times for tomorrow already. Here's a NQ 5-minute chart. If you sneak it up over here, you'll see we already have the times for tomorrow. 3:45, 4:25, 5:50, 8:50, 9:40, 10:40, 12:05, 12:55. It's an uncomfortable realization. Something is coming, and I'm powerless to change it. But I can react. I can profit from it. I can take advantage of it. I can lay in wait like a predator. Grab the gazelle as it's walking by. That's what I want for you. That's what we've gotten from our customers. It's this idea of what is trading? What is the reality of it? Is it something where we sit there all day watching every tick, every crazy candle pattern, and have to learn Japanese to memorize stuff? Well, that's a Harimi Hagashi Nagasaki pattern. But what? Oh, it's a Nagasaki pattern. I just learned a new pattern. Yesterday was a sashimi pattern. Oh. The training in NC will not be over your head. Not at all. In fact, I made it so easy that we built an indicator for it. Whoa, look at that. What does green mean? Green means up. What does red mean? Down. Yellow is a stop level. If you come, that's what you get. Are you colorblind? Down arrow means down. Up arrow means up. Cut it out, lol. You're being weird. Stop being weird. I have customers who don't know where the My Documents folder is on their computer. I have customers who've looked at me quizzically on Zoom when I said double click. Do you know what double click means? You're going to be fine. I build this stuff for people who don't know what double click means. You're going to be fine. And that's an important point to make. If it's not simple to understand, if there isn't a book that a 5-year-old can read and understand, what does the very first page of my book say? Earl says, where's the any key? The very first page of the book of patterns, which are now encoded into the software. First things first, don't panic, lol. I get it. I understand. The best teachers are the ones who can forget everything they know and teach it to someone like they're seeing it for the first time. That's what I do. Anyway, it works. You should come. I'm going to send you stuff. You're going to come. You're going to love it. Virtually, live, I don't care. It's going to be a blast. But anyway, we believe that markets are predictable. We believe the universe is screaming at us. There's order in the chaos. We believe, like great men before us have, men and women, people like Eliot and Wyckoff and Gann himself, that markets are predictable, subject to rhythmical behavior, with a certainty previously unattainable. That was Eliot, the founder of Elliott wave theory. All of these men and women who looked at the markets long enough said, wait a minute. They're just like every other part of nature. They can't do what they want when they want. It's not chaos. It's constrained. It's ordered. It's predictable. But if you don't know what man standing next to dog means, if you don't know what man with cat means, if you don't have that Rosetta Stone, it's all garbage. It's a bunch of characters on a wall. It's meaningless. It has no value to you. No value to you. Matt, which information do you want me to send you? The info for a guy like me is a treasure chest box filled with stuff. Conference, yeah, I got it. Okay, cool. You're new, Matt. I didn't recognize your name. I wanted to make sure you were a customer versus someone. Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much for being here at all. I appreciate you. Thank you. So this is what we believe. And if you believe that, we can really help you. We can teach you some stuff that's going to give you a leg up. And that's not to say you should abandon everything you were doing. You can add what you've been doing to this, but know when to apply it. Knowing when to look at the things you've already watched. Knowing which support and resistance lines. Should I look for a breakout of this line or a rejection of this line? Should I look for a reversal at this time or a continuation at this time? My volume spiked just now. What time is it? What's the plan for today? What is this time encoded with? What is its polarity? What does the book say is likely to happen at this moment? Yeah, that's what we can help you with. I'm going to tell you in a second how you can get it. Does anyone have any questions? If you got here late, a market you wanted to see, something I didn't explain well enough, speak now or forever hold your pieces. We've been here for 15 years. Anybody who was allowed to write anything about us wrote stuff. And on Trustpilot, all of these people are actual customers. And you can go back and get a sense of what other people before you have said before you got here, who sat in this webinar before you got here and went through the Rubicon before you got here. So you've got that to rely on. No way, Doug. That was just for Lowell. Lowell's cranky and he needs things like that. Today's recording will always be on YouTube, usually a day or two later. So if you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, go ahead, click on that notifications bell and subscribe, and you'll know when Rachel's uploaded the webinar. Nah, Doug, we can look at it. It's not a problem. I can send you some charts after this, actually. It's not a problem for me. The program that we're talking about, let me wrap it up here so you can get out, is called Warp. Doug, just tell me what market and time frame you're interested in. The product we're looking at is called Warp. It's our flagship product. When you click on that link in our product store, all right, I got you. All the way down at the bottom, you'll see a link to get started. It's a $24.95 one-time purchase, 2 computer licenses for NinjaTrader per user. Please make sure you look at the purchase agreement. Don't send me an email 38 days from now, your grandma's kitten died and you need your money back and your left arm was tragically removed in an ice skating incident. The policy, the purchase agreement, everything is here. In fact, when you go to buy it, it's going to make you click on a button a couple times that records the fact that you clicked on the button. We're committing to you with this, the full force of our training, of our organization, of the mentors that are here. Please take it seriously. I teach a live room. It's me now. It's just me. It's all me. It's about me. I teach a live training room. It includes charts from our Force program, charts from our Alpha program with Salooner stuff. It includes all of the top-down daily analyses for stocks and markets on the largest of time frames down to intraday trading on a 1 to 5 minute scale. Everything I teach in the webinars, all of the theology and the doctrines you learn here, punctures, signals with trend, pattern 4s and 5s, that's what we use. Today was a pretty awesome day. We had a pretty good day today in the room. We did Wednesday, we did Tuesday. If you want to be a part of that, you can send me an email. I'll get you information on it. But if you want to join that room now, you can start at a 25% discount if you get it with your warp purchase initially. If you don't want it, you won't hurt my feelings. You can always add it later. There's that purchase agreement. Make sure you're familiar with it. And then you're going to have to agree to it again. Please take it seriously. There's a promo code for you, WARPOFF. 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 When you hit apply, it's going to take $500 US greenbacks. They asked Donald Trump what he thought about Bitcoin. And he said, a lot of people are using it. A lot of people talking about it. I like dollars. I'm a big fan of the dollar. You're going to get $500 off because you sat here and endured my intellectual shenanigans for the last hour and 15 minutes. So thank you for that. This is a NinjaTrader indicator. You do not have to use the purchased version. You can use the free version. Any of the funded trader programs that tie to Ninja, Apex, Bullinox, etc., and so on, their 90% coupons, so what is that, $10 a month will give you the data for almost all of the futures markets. You can use it. If you have an Interactive Brokers account or a TD Ameritrade account, E-Trade account, or eSignal, I think it'll plug into NinjaTrader. Forex.com plugs into it. Coinbase plugs into it. There's a bunch of different ways you can use it for free, but the program is an indicator for NinjaTrader. We can help you get that set up and started if you like. Oh, that's all I got. I'm going to take a quick screenshot for those of you that said you wanted more information about that event. There we go. Okay, so I got you here ready to go. And then also Matt came in later and said he wanted information too. Some of those, if you wouldn't mind, if you're here, a lot of the email places are sending us to spam. Go ahead and scroll through your spam folder and make sure that you've got us listed as a trusted source, and make sure you're getting those emails from us too. Thanks. I think today was good. I feel good about it. I hope you do too. Thank you if you're an existing customer. We continue to push boundaries. We continue to look for more hieroglyphs, look for new things to teach and share with you. And that's our commitment. We'll never stop learning. We'll never stop advancing. We'll always pursue this so we can add more and more order to the chaos. So you can add more and more pips and ticks to your P&L. That's our commitment to you. We love it. I love what I do. I love you guys. I hope you know that. And always remember, I'm here if you need help. May the wind be at your back. May the sun shine upon your handsome, beautiful faces. May the valleys rise up to meet you. May the mountains before you lay low as you go forward. I am for you. We are for you. What it is that you envision for yourself, your hopes, your dreams, your goals for profitability, we are for you and on your side. I truly mean that. Take care, guys. Have a great night. I'll be around here tonight and tomorrow. If you have any questions, email me. Also, if you get any kind of notes or calls from a guy named Charlie or Dave, they are with me. I am their parole officer, so they have to check in once a week. But if you get a call or an email from them, answer it. Warp and all plug in. Doug, yeah, if you have data feeds with NinjaTrader connected to those things, it'll work too. So When we were looking at the Coinbase data feed over on Bitcoin, for example, you'll see here that I'm connected to the Coinbase data feed, and I can look at BTC, USD, and so forth, and run those analyses on that as well. It's pretty cool. The world is changing every day, and Warp is keeping up with every single instrument they can throw at it. If they have mayonnaise futures tomorrow, you will have the buy and sell times for mayonnaise for the next week. How cool would that be? Sandwiches and egg salad for everyone. I love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Catch that recording. It'll be up on our YouTube channel tomorrow. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment. See you soon. Take care.